Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Let's Review, where we review the latest and greatest of entertainment. Today, we're going to be focusing on video games as we discuss a recent video game that I had completed. So, the overall plan for the review I'm going to be completing is that I'll be discussing the overview of the game, the story at hand, the gameplay mechanics, the themes that matter if there are any and if they are necessary to the game that I'd like to discuss in regards to deeper themes and meanings, and lastly, the overall wrap up and conclusion of how I felt about the game. Now, let's review. So let's begin with the overview of the game. Game of Thrones is an episodic graphic adventure video game based on the TV series of the same name, which is in turn based on George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire fantasy series. The game was developed by Telltale Games and follows the episodic format found in other Telltale titles, such as The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, and Tales from the Borderland, where players' choices and actions influence later events across the 6-episode arc. Continuing on with the story at hand, the story revolves around the northern House Forrester, rulers of Ironrath, whose members, including the 5 playable characters, attempt to save their family and themselves after ending up on the losing side of the War of the 5 Kings. The game includes settings, characters, and voice actors from the novels and TV series. Along with the gameplay mechanics, a game is only as good as its mechanics, and this one right here made it go hand in hand. The point and click adventure makes even the smallest of gestures matter here, from what you say to how you move, and it works wonders for the overall experience because you find yourself immersed in a way that games don't usually do, or at least did as much as they used to do in Telltale Games, which is why I admired the studio so much because it had its own twist to storytelling, and you got to feel so much more impact with the lack of decision you made or the amount of time in which you made a decision, which I think really adds to the factor of why their games were so successful and such a hit. Some themes that matter that are of note that I wanted to discuss here were the morality and ethics that are shown in the game, some as well as discussing some choices and consequences, which are very heavily induced into the game, and lastly, community and culture. So, with the morality and ethics thing, the reason why I wanted to highlight that is because the show is very well known for its layers of many characters, from prisoners that fight against this endless war, which they don't get appreciation for, to kings that do not act like honorable kings, to people who are, I don't know, they just have a way of really making these characters memorable because of their three-dimensional layers. And I believe the game covers that here very well with the characters that we play as and how they interact with characters from the show and characters from the game, that I think should be really highlighted here because that could be a hard thing to do. And this game walks that fine line of good and bad and what that means the same way the show does very well. So that's something I wanted to highlight. When it comes to the choices and consequences of the game, this has been a running theme in all of the Telltale games if you've played them, and other games also that we've started to see in the public mainstream, such as Don't Not Entertainment and games like Life is Strange and Outer Worlds and all this other stuff that I've been seeing people play that really delve into the choices and consequences of not what could happen to you short term, but what happens in the long term and how you play that and how that could affect you, which I think always adds a really good element and factor to the game of you really thinking about what you're going to do. Because when I was a kid, I never really had to worry about, oh, you know what, if I don't get this coin or this token or this, if I don't say the right thing here, nothing bad's going to happen to my character because it's just going to be I'm just going to be able to redo it again. And although you do have that option, it's very hard to want to keep doing it every time if you don't really make the right decisions. But I'm glad that the game doesn't kind of do that thing. The last few ones that I wanted to discuss were community and culture. I feel like with this one specifically, what Telltale does here very well with Game of Thrones and their IP here is that we have a presentation of two families and from two different backgrounds and what could happen in a situation where someone is at a loss for words and doesn't know what to do and how to pick up the pieces. And I would say the cultural aspect of everything, meaning who leads the house after and what happens to houses during this period of time of war and uh, the losing end of that and what that means. And I think they touch on that very well with the way the world building is set up and the way the foresters run their house and the way the other house runs their house apart from them, which is they show good and bad perspectives of what this could mean to somebody and to these people and what it means to the whole world of Westeros. So I think that they also did that well, and that's something I wanted to highlight. So moving on to the wrap up before we go. The game was filled with small scale but beautiful and personable action sequences with a strong story that hits its peak and surpasses it with each passing episode. The gameplay mechanics are simple and smooth, and the themes that reign true here are shown and not preached in a spectacular way. Overall, a superb game, and I recommend you play it. And if you did, let me know what you think of the game down below and also my review. Thanks.